America's debt won't collapse slowly. It's built to flip overnight. If the dollar underpins your savings or income, this is a trigger almost no one is prepared for, and the impact will be impossible to ignore. You're about to see how $1 trillion interest bill, foreign buyers stepping back, and quiet new laws line up with a set of digital rails that are already live. Stay to the end, because you will leave with the roadmap insiders use when the old system resets in a single night. The fuse is the debt itself. America now spends more than $1 trillion a year just to pay interest, and that bill grows every quarter high-rate stick. Foreign demand that once anchored Treasury auctions is fading. China and Japan have been reducing holdings, which leaves banks and money funds to absorb more supply at higher yields. Each rollover clears at a price the budget cannot ignore. What used to be routine funding is turning into a treadmill that speeds up on its own. While that fuse burns, Congress has been moving dull-sounding bills with phrases like market structure and stablecoin oversight. Most people scroll past those headlines, but inside the fine print are clauses that make tokenized debt and blockchain settlement legal at scale. That is the quiet wiring for a fast switch. It allows high-grade assets to settle instantly, carry richer data, and move as programmable collateral when the old pipes jam. Even the public language has started to shift. Donald Trump told a crowd, half joking, "We might just pay off the debt with a little crypto check." And lines like that are not accidents. Leaders float words before they float policy. When a remark like that lands, it means the rails are closer than anyone wants to admit. Put the pieces together and the picture is simple. The debt spiral is the fuse, the new laws are the wiring, and the on-stage crypto line is a test balloon. When those parts converge, the system does not implode in chaos. It flips to the rails that are already waiting in the background. Those rails have a name most viewers never hear spoken out loud. They are built on the global messaging standard called ISO 20022. Banks and market infrastructures are migrating to it because it reduces errors and lets money move with complete context across borders. And there are very few digital assets designed to live on those rails from day one. XRP sits at the center of cross-border corridors and keeps showing up in hearings, while Stellar is already embedded in pilots that move value internationally. These are not random tickers chasing hype. They are the pipes most likely to carry demand when policy needs a pressure valve that does not blow up the banking system. Here is what the flip feels like from ground level. A week or two of uneasy auctions start to look like distress sales. The curve breaks character, and banks begin to treat treasuries a little less like cash and a little more like risk. Then a bland press release appears about upgrading settlement and operational resilience. Within hours, a corridor opens wider, and the assets built for those rails move before the public finishes the headline. You do not need a terminal to read the signals in plain English. If auctions stumble in streaks and officials start praising instant settlement and tokenized instruments, the window is opening. At that point, there are only two paths. Either yields fall because growth collapses and the stress fades, or the switch flips and the new rails take weight from the old ones. If the first path shows up, the urgency drops and you stand down on timing. If the second path shows up, demand migrates to the rails that already speak the language banks read. That migration is not just a technology change. It is a transfer of where value lives when trust shrinks and speed matters more than tradition. This is why the ISO 2002 label keeps appearing in dull documents while almost no one connects it to the debt spiral on television. The same paperwork that looks boring today is the legal bridge that carries money tomorrow. The roadmap at the end of this trail is not complicated. Study the rails themselves, not the noise, and focus on the assets built to move value for institutions at scale. That means the networks with live corridors, real partners, and messaging align with ISO 2022. It means watching XRP as the obvious institutional bridge and watching Stellar where cross-border pilots are already in production. Everything else is decoration when the fuse burns down. The system will choose a path that reduces friction, shortens risk windows, and keeps the lights on for the people in charge. The hidden truth is that none of this is really hidden anymore. It is simply scattered across budget math, foreign custody data, hearing transcripts, and boring build text that no one bothered to stitch together. Stitch it now, and the shape is unmistakable. The debt is the trigger, the laws are the wiring. The remark about a crypto check is the foreshadow, and the rails that speak ISO 20022 are the outlet. The flip will not wait for consensus or a TV graphic. It will move along pipes that have already been tested while the public argues about labels. If you understand that, you stop asking whether the old system survives in one piece and start asking when the new one takes the load. You also stop treating XRP and Stellar like speculative trivia and start seeing them as plumbing. The last thing to keep in mind is timing. Stress builds quietly, then breaks in a rush, and policy prefers answers that press one button and settle in seconds. That is why a single believable corridor can change everything in a day. The point is not to predict the date. The point is to recognize the design and position yourself to understand it before it moves. The national debt will be presented as the reason the switch must be flipped, not the reason to panic. The destination will be sold as modernization, efficiency, and safety, and in a way that will be true for the people flipping the switch. If you have followed the picture, you can see where that switch routes value when it clicks. It routes toward rails that institutions can read, regulators can audit, and markets can trust under pressure. That is a story almost no one is telling in one piece. It is the only story that makes sense of the numbers, the bills, and the sudden comfort with crypto language on big stages. When the fuse reaches the charge, the move will be fast and mostly silent. The money will already know where to go. If you want these signals decoded before they hit headlines, subscribe now so you do not miss the next move. Coexistence windows end, RTGS platforms cut over, and major payment systems post migration dates that sound technical but function like a launch schedule. Those are the careful words used when a tokenized PAP is about to take real weight. They are just the same bonds represented on ledgers that allow atomic delivery, instant reuse as collateral, and clear ownership history in a single message. It shrinks settlement risk, keeps audit trails, and lets liquidity move where it is needed without waiting on legacy cutoffs. Look at custody flows, auction takedowns, and the monthly reports that track who is buying and who is stepping back. They will market it as safer, faster, and easier to supervise, and the public will accept it because payments will feel smoother. The center of gravity is small, and it lives where banks already plug in and corridors already move real value. It looks like plumbing until the day it becomes the only pipe that still works. Two soft auctions hit in the same week, a funding squeeze refuses to relax, and a utility announces an upgraded settlement corridor that goes live immediately for specific instruments. It is not magic, and it is not a plot twist. It is the natural path of value into the easiest pipe during stress. You only need to recognize the design and watch the language that precedes it. By then, the rerouting of demand will already be in motion.